Yes, my microphone is turned on. Ha! I'm back in my studio, except for the fact that it hurts my leg to walk. Yeah, I had a major accident in Egypt, which curtailed all the rest of my Middle East trip and is now curtailing my evacuation to Mexico and more than likely my trip to Croatia, and then trying to pick up my trip back through the Middle East again. So anyways, today, of course, I saw a picture of the person who likes to call himself the president, but does not act like one, cheering and holding basically a political rally with the soldiers at Fort Bragg. We spent just a minimal amount of time at Fort Bragg. The less for me, the better. It was not my favorite posting, but that's where they train the Green Berets, and that's what my husband did. And we were lucky enough to not be stationed there. I'm sure there are plenty of people that like that area. I'm a West Coast girl. I love travel, and that area just did not do it for me. So anyways, I listened to it and everybody was like, no, Biden did it. No, there's what was the other one that I heard? They're under the government, so they're under President Trump. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. They're actually they're there to uphold the Constitution. And generally, what the founding fathers thought were that the American public were intelligent enough to elect a president who would uphold the Constitution and not do political rallies on a base, or actually it's probably joint base now. Is it joint base? Bragg, Pope? Is Pope still there? I'd have to check. We were there so long ago. It's where we run into, I believe, most of our problems. He really, really wants to be a dictator, and our Constitution is set up so we really, 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 really don't have a dictator. And that's where all these problems stem from. And for some reason, because we're culling our military, we're culling it to make it a military that only likes Trump. So military.com wrote this interesting piece because there is a gentleman who has commented on my TikTok a couple of times, which, by the way, you're using your real name, but I will not mention it, that he actually has some soldiers that volunteered to go do it. Well, apparently they must have had the right appearance because these Bragg soldiers cheered Trump's political attacks while in uniform, but they were checked for allegiance to Trump and their appearance. So I thought that was very interesting. It was supposed to be a routine appearance, a visit from the commander-in-chief to rally the troops, boost morale, and celebrate Army's 200th birthday week, which culminates with a Washington, D.C. parade slated for Saturday, because all great dictators have parades, or monarchies, and we're neither one. So we don't do that because we don't politicize our military at all, because it's against the UCMJ. People fight back and forth against this. Now, it's not against the UCMJ to sit there and stand at attention while the president respectfully states, I am here because you all are doing a wonderful job, and we appreciate the fact that you have our backs, and you have had our back for the last 250 years, starting with Washington, something along those lines. And I am proud of the excellent job you have done, the professionalism that you have done, the way that you hold our, covered our freedom, and those boring ones that I don't know how many I gone to is unbelievable. But, those basic ones. And they just stand there professionally. And at the end, they march off into the night. Who knows where they go? Where do soldiers go when they die? They fade away. Trump, however, got 6 deferments for bone spurs, right? For bone spurs. I didn't even know that was possible. How do you get 6 deferments for bone spurs if your dad's a millionaire and you can't get them taken care of? I don't know. I think after the second time, they'd be like, hey, Don, your dad's got a lot of money. I think you should fix this. Otherwise, we're just going to set you behind a desk in Saigon and you can hide. Yeah, we'll let you do that. Bone spurs. Yeah, okay. All right. He's also called you all losers, suckers, all those very respectful things that you want your chief of staff to call you. He told, when he was talking about McCain, he said he likes people that don't get captured. Well, I like McCain. I considered him to be a friend. So I like people that don't try and shirk their duty when there's a draft. I like people that go out in the middle of the night, not knowing what's going to happen, and get the job done, even if they don't come home. Instead, they said, what unfolded Tuesday at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, bore little resemblance to the customary visit from a president and defense secretary. There, President Donald Trump unleashed a speech laced with partisan invective, goading jeers from a crowd of soldiers positioned behind his podium, blurring the long-standing and sacrosanct line between the military and partisan politics. As Trump viciously attacked his perceived political foes, he whipped up boos from the gathered Trump troops directed at California leaders, including Governor Gavin Newsom, amid the president's controversial move to deploy the National Guard and Marines against protesters in Los Angeles, as well as former President Joe Biden and the press. The soldiers roared with laughter and applauded Trump's diatribe in a shocking and rare public display of troops taking part in naked political partisanship. Now, military.com tried to reach out to 82nd Airborne, and they didn't respond back. There's a large article about it, and General Henry said, damn, that POTUS speech at Fort Bragg was inappropriate, criticizing previous administration and generals while speaking to troops. I never witnessed shit like this in 37 years in uniform. My first taste of it wasn't military.com. It was just the overseas military newspapers. I had a fascination with World War II, and my grandfather fought in World War II overseas. So he kept all the newspapers that he had gotten while he was overseas. And it went into 1945. So one day I was really sick, and I had been staying with them. And so I was just sitting on the couch. There wasn't anything to do. That's how old I am. It's not like you could turn on just cable and you get something. And it wasn't baseball season. It wasn't basketball season. It wasn't anything that my grandfather and I could watch on TV. I think at that age, I hadn't really I hadn't gotten into basketball yet. That was in 5th grade. I think I was in 3rd grade, maybe 4th grade. And I would just started softball. So he brought them all upstairs to me, and I was so excited. I was just like, my God, what, you've been hiding these from me? And my step grandmother just went, Turk, she's not going to want to look at those. Yes, I do. And I spent the entire weekend just poring over them, talking about Normandy, their movements throughout Germany, the liberation of the camps, everything that had happened, pictures in color. Military.com is where I got my inspiration for my first study before I moved on to start working on my doctorate, where they had come up with some controversial thing where they were like, well, the troops aren't getting paid enough. And the military thought it was a good idea to have a spokesman come out and say, well, they need to stop having children. If they can't afford to feed their children, then that's their problem. I'm like, seriously? So if you're an E6 and you can't afford to feed one child, that's their problem? Don't you think as an E6 they should be able to feed one, maybe even two children and be able to survive? I was like, that's the dumbest thing I ever did. So I overtook my husband's company. I did an anonymous survey, put it all together, got it in a little package, did my little statistical analysis and gave it to my professor, who was extremely impressed because I had overtaken my husband's company. So I had quite a few people. Everyone trusted me because they trusted him. And it was published in Military Times. Not only that, John McCain got it through legislation. So now that additional $500 a month you can get is because of my study and the fact that John McCain pushed it through and made it legislative. You don't make things political. I'm a Democrat. I've been a lifelong Democrat. Cain was a Republican. Been a lifelong Republican. We worked together to get that through. And I was always honored to call him a friend. You don't politicize the military. And there's a reason for that. There's a very good movie called Civil War. I have worked in third and fourth world countries. That's where I was going before I broke my ankle and apparently tore all my tendons. Yeah, this is going to be fun because I have so many places I have to go to. This is the only way I could address all the people out there that don't understand what it's like or don't understand that, well, they volunteered to go. Well, you can volunteer to go, but you can't volunteer to be part of his politics. It's great if you like the president and you want to shake his hand or whatever. That's normal. If you like that president, that's perfectly normal. But you don't get caught up in his politics. You don't get to be part of his photo op. You also probably try to stay out of the 700 people that he's, militarizing and sending to LA. Maybe all of a sudden you just start throwing up constantly, or, I don't eat so much you just think you have appendicitis, or maybe you just like me and you miss 4 stairs and land on the marble floor and invert your angle a couple of different ways, and it's just dead. And it's an idea. It's just an idea, Take a hammer or a finger. I've got all sorts of them. But right now, your country needs you. Your country needs you to be apolitical. Your country needs you to stand up for everyone, not just the people you like. That's not how it goes. You do realize the people in red states use more of our taxes than the people in blue states. They use more benefits like SNAP, Medicaid, emergency aid. They use more of that than the people in blue states. Do we just stop paying our taxes and let them starve? That wouldn't be very American, would it? That would be Trump. That would be Trump and what he did with USAID. Because I sat next to someone from the UN who said that their microloans that they were working on through USAID in Africa was extremely, extremely successful. It was helping women get out of poverty and the abusive relationships that they had going on. And he wondered if I could get somebody's number if they were back. And I thought that they had ruled that they weren't allowed to get rid of all the programs yet. But by the time I got back on my ankle, they were gone. But he was so upset because this program had been so successful. And if you have been to Northern Africa, where it's a war-torn country, or your kids are having to work in mines, and you have a program that helps you get out of that perpetual poverty. And we, as Americans, it's a fraction. Instead of giving it to billionaires, it's a fraction. We could do the same thing here. Anyways, think about it. It's always the Constitution first. The Constitution is always first. It's never the president. And the president always has things to rein him in. He's not a king. And even a constitutional king doesn't have any power. He wants to be a Saudi Arabian king. That's what you all are going to see. Me, I'm going to be on the beach of Mexico. So you all have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you later. Ciao.